Salmonella Brandenburg reared its ugly head again.
Yes, it has, Rob. So I thought might be timely just to review the whole situation. So traditionally Salmonella, which is a bacteria, and a lot of people may have heard of it, in humans it's traditionally associated with food poisoning, vomiting, diarrhea type bacteria. Traditionally it's caused sporadic disease in farm animals, and particularly cattle, with sudden death actually in fairly well-grown animals generally, sometimes sheep. About a decade or so ago, we had some major problems with abortions, late-stage abortions in sheep in the Southland area, that was shown to be due to a new species of Salmonella, which was termed Salmonella Brandenburg. It was very, very contagious, and we had major outbreaks, and some farms lost significant numbers of lambs. Late-stage pregnancy, and not only were the lambs lost, but the breeding ewe often became sick with uterine infection and sometimes secondary pneumonias, lung infections, and there was a significant mortality rate with the ewes as well. In subsequent years, the disease seemed to spread, and we think in association with especially scavenging type bird species, gulls and things, shedding bits of afterbirth and things, and the transportation of carrier animals that didn't show symptoms. So then we started having sporadic problems in the Canterbury area, and from there it became a major problem, to such a degree that the vaccine companies responded by developing a vaccine especially for this problem.
Just specifically for Brandenburg.
Exactly. So they added a Brandenburg antigen, or a component of the vaccine that induces immunity, to the standard Salmonella vaccine. So extended the how widespread the protection was, if you like. Once it hit Canterbury, we then ended up with the development of some new syndromes, particularly in dairy calves. Again, diarrhea and sometimes deaths. And this was associated with dairy calves that were being reared on milk. So the typical calf rearing scenario. So somehow there was a crossover into that area. And just recently, actually just in the last week or so, I've heard that there's a relatively new syndrome, rather akin to the initial sheep problem, but in dairy cattle, where we're having, there's been a number of outbreaks of abortion in calf heifers that has been associated with Brandenburg. So I think it's timely to bring the subject up. And
it had sort of died down for a while, hadn't it?
It had died down and sort of to very low levels. I mean, we've kept having sort of sporadic little blips every year of disease, but on the whole it had been well controlled, and we think in association with both the vaccine use and good advice coming through media outlets and through the veterinarians in these areas. So obviously stress and some management issues seem to be associated with a rapid spread, and I guess it's timely to talk about stress when we're talking about these poor chaps up in North Canterbury. This is a classic time when we're under food stress, not only for other problems, but that would be a classic scenario to get a Brandenburg outbreak really shooting out in those areas. So other stresses need to be really thought about. Break feeding animals in the lambing mob. You need to know what you're doing in this scenario, because it's been shown that when we've got very high stocking rates behind a break, particularly in association with some wet, muddy weather, that seems to really trigger some major outbreaks. So that balance between trying to control feed and the mob that are due to give birth, against the environmental issues that occur and the stocking density that occurs, and that sort of management practice needs to be borne in mind.
Nick, why do I think ducks when I think Salmonella?
Well, poultry has been associated with other species of Salmonella in particular, and birds in general, and it's one of the biggies when we talk about rearing food animals and poultry for human consumption. And that is because a number of the species that make us and other animals sick tend to not make a lot of bird species sick, and it's very easy for these Salmonella species to live quite harmlessly in birds' gastrointestinal tracts and not make them sick. And so they can become a very good source of spreading the disease.
So that's when they're fouling pasture and such.
That's right, yeah. But not particularly associated with Brandenburg. As I said, the seagulls and scavenging type birds have been associated with the spread of Brandenburg, mainly through feeding on the products of abortion and birth, after birth and things, and transporting them to neighbouring properties. So it's very, very important that hygiene, personal hygiene, to protect oneself, because as I've mentioned, it crosses species barriers very easily, and humans are very susceptible. And whenever we see abortion outbreaks, we also see concurrent outbreaks of human disease, and the farm is concerned. And so making sure that you've got good barrier protection of hands and arms, and using general good cleanliness when you're dealing with these situations is exceptionally important.
You're not being a silly person if you wear gloves.
Absolutely not. And if you don't, ensuring that you wash hands very regularly straight away afterwards. So if you're not someone that likes wearing gloves, having some disinfectant water, you know, on the four-wheeler when you're going around doing your lambing beat, that's really important. But of course, gloves is by far the best protection on top of all these.
And you can still do the disinfectant as well.
Absolutely. So very, very, very important, and actually sensible and clean dealing with these after birth products of abortion, or even just normal birthing membranes and secretions from the animals that you're assisting. And now with the dairy situation, with the heifers being involved, it doesn't make dairy farmers immune. Again, you know, it needs to be borne in mind by all livestock farmers that are being involved in the breeding facet of those industries.
Nick, briefly, is it too late to do prevention now?
No, absolutely not. So it's in the face of an outbreak, vaccination has been shown to help. Of course, it's better to anticipate these problems, knowing that your neighbours have had problems or there's problems in the area, and inducing immunity before that. But if there has been prior immunity induced through vaccination, a booster shot would induce very rapid immunity, in fact.